My parents 45F48 male keep pushing additional expenses on me 23 male. Hello. I'm a 23-year-old adult living with my family at the moment. I work full-time and have the aspiration to go back to school this year. But with how finances are looking, I'm really doubting the plausibility of it. Recently my family moved out of their old home that they could no longer afford and into a more reasonable townhome. I moved with them under the agreement that I would pay certain expenses and bills, which I do. It all ends up amounting to around $600 a month, which is reasonable on my salary. However, it seems like every month my dad comes to me with some unexpected expense that needs to be paid, and they never seem to have the funds for it. This isn't new behavior. It's been happening for a few years now, as long as I can remember, and I've always felt a little peeved then. But I realized it was a rough time and my parents were struggling with work. They said that would change once they got out of the old house, but it obviously has not. Last month it was around $700 to cover the rent, since my mom and sister went out of town for some dance camp vacation. This month it's $600 for my sister's tuition. I've told them no this time, and my dad seemed really distraught. But I've really had it with their poor financial planning and being given the runaround on this. I don't want my sister to be unable to go to her school, but I also don't feel like that should be an expense I'm covering when I already give my part to the household, especially when some of their spending is rather frivolous. Cigarettes, soda, eating out, etc. My dad does work a lot, so he isn't some bum by any means, and my mom typically makes quite good money, but she's a contractor and currently not working until August. Am I being fair, or should I reconsider? Too long didn't read. My family are asking for additional money beyond what was agreed every month. Am I wrong for saying no? You're not going to be able to go back to school or move out if they keep using your money. They are relying on you as a safety net to make up for their bad choices. They don't need soda or tequila. They don't need to go on vacation. I haven't been on vacation in years because I'm paying off my own debts. You have to make it clear how much you're able and willing to pay each month. They will guilt you and insist that they need the money, but you could point out that not all of their purchases are necessary. Stand your ground. Otherwise they'll keep expecting money from you for years. And when you finish school and make more money, they'll ask for even more. I was also like you. My parents make $40k a year with their 2 salaries, and as soon as I started working at 15 they stopped paying for any of my expenses such as food, clothes, driving lessons, community college, car payments, car insurance, etc. They always asked for money. At first it was $20 here and there, but then it was $20 every day for gas or $500 for utilities or any other monthly emergency. They would always promise to pay me back, but of course I knew that money was gone. The breaking point for me was when my dad's car finally broke down and they didn't know how they were going to finance a new vehicle. I offered to purchase a car for them as I felt bad since they have zero savings and a credit score of less than 600. I paid for a $3,000 used car for my dad. He wasn't even grateful and never said thank you. When I asked him about it, he said I didn't gift him anything and that he was going to pay me back, so why should he say thanks? After that I moved out at 22 and they have stopped asking me for money. I'm definitely not saving as much money as I used to, but it feels empowering being in charge of my own finances and not having to feel responsible for their debts. Take the jump. You are not wrong for saying no to paying for things that you did not agree to pay, especially when the reason those things are an issue is because of frivolous spending on their part. Money is fungible, which means that if say they spend $100 on something frivolous, so they are $100 short on something like rent and they ask you to pay for that, all they are really doing is asking you to pay $100 for their frivolity. When you subsidize something, you get more of it. So the more money you give them to support their frivolity, the more frivolity they are going to spend money on. Make an agreement in writing about how much you will be paying each month to live there. Make it fair. Sign it and have them sign it. Then stick to that amount. And while you're at it, start looking for your own place to live. Because it will come to a point where they start to pressure your living arrangement in order to leverage more money out of you. And you want to be out of there before that happens. First, Understand how fair your 600 agreement also is. That all in room board is in your area. That will to a point guide how hard you can push. If it's as much as you could pay to rent a room in a shared house and feed yourself, you can push back harder. If it's already way underpriced, your parents hold the upper hand and are basically subsidizing you. That said, needing to suddenly cough up double what was agreed on because your mom and C's went to dance camp without even budgeting for C's tuition would make me angry too. Refuse to pay and see what happens. As long as you're paying your fair share of rent and expenses, I think it's unreasonable of them to ask you for money for things like your sister's tuition. You're already paying them $600 a month. So if they're having trouble paying their bills, it might be worthwhile to go over a budget with them. You don't have to be lazy to be bad with money. Lots of people are very hardworking, but have no idea how to manage their own money and just don't realize how many 5-10 purchases end up adding to several $100s a month in unnecessary expenses. I'd just keep saying no, because it sounds like you're doing your part already, and they probably wouldn't even be able to afford their current home if you weren't paying rent. If you want to help out, maybe offer to help them come up with a budget. But as far as paying $700 here and $600 there, that's not a reasonable expectation of you. Is your sister helping out financially in any way? You had to pay extra to cover her dance competition and now you have to pay for her tuition. If this is college tuition, then she is old enough to get a job and help out too, especially since they are her expenses, or it's your parents' responsibility to financially support her as they decided to have children. I could understand if they were going through a hardship like a lost job or unexpected medical expenses, but this seems like poor financial planning. Dance competition, eating out, cigarettes, those are all luxuries and they should pay for necessities like rent and utilities first, then go for a vacation. Dance competition, if they have extra money to do so. I think they are taking advantage of you, and you had every right to say no to paying for your sister's tuition. So I think them asking for additional expenses being covered for the house isn't unreasonable. This is your family and you're an adult choosing to live with them. I don't doubt that they also support you in other areas of home living such as cooking and cleaning, etc. Unless you're doing everything by yourself. This in my opinion comes with living at home. However, things like your sister tuition crossed the line of inappropriate. Like if my family asked one time, I would give it no problem. But if it's constant and your family are getting too comfortable, it's time to put up a boundary. I cannot afford to give that right now. It's not in my budget. I've only budgeted my agreed expenses thing month. If they cannot afford it, who says you should be the one to be able to afford it too? It will definitely be uncomfortable. Additionally, maybe it's worth suggesting budgeting to them. There's a Renab forum you could possibly check out. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.